What's up everyone, DJ Sai here, and in this video I'm going to take a moment and I'm going to take a break from talking about the actual game and take a bit to talk about mindset. And I have a little definition right here if you guys are wondering, but that's just a stock picture. And when I say mindset, I mean what's the best mindset you could possibly have in the game in order to get better, improve faster, things of that nature. You may have noticed in recent times that we've had a good amount of players recently. I'm not going to mention any specific names, but younger players who just kind of came out of nowhere and became good really quickly and started topping events, maybe even winning events. And it just seems like the number one question people think is, where do they come from? How do they get good so fast? And I think the answer to this is that they had the correct mindset to improve quickly, and it paid off. Now, a very common sight that I notice when I see somebody who has potential and they're starting to get reasonably good at the game, becoming a little bit of more than an average player, an above average player. And there's always this moment, I think, in every Yu-Gi-Oh player's career when they start getting more competitive. They have, they start winning local tournaments, maybe even topping regional tournaments, and they get more and more confident, which is a good thing, but they start to develop this ego, this pride associated with it, associated with being maybe the best player at the locals, best player in their area. And because of this, they start to think in their head, they get maybe even, they get arrogant, they get a little too cocky, and start to think that, they're the greatest player ever. And maybe not so drastic, but whenever they lose, they will never blame themselves for a loss or truly blame themselves for a loss. They'll generally say, oh, my opponent top decked this, or oh, I bricked, or oh, my opponent got lucky, or oh, they drew the nuts. Very common things to hear from players who are starting to get good. And although sometimes this is true, this mindset doesn't really get you very far, and you don't really learn anything from the loss. I mean, in Yu-Gi-Oh, as well as pretty much anything in life, you learn a lot more from when you lose than from when you win. And every time you lose, there's almost always something to be learned from it, whether it was a play that you could have done better, maybe you could have played a little faster, maybe you could have built your deck a little bit better, maybe you could have, I can't think of anything really, maybe you could have built your side deck a little bit better and sided a little bit more effectively. There's plenty of things that you can always do better. But when you start to critically think about your games like that, you will actually think, okay, I made this mistake and I'll try to improve on it next time, or I played my side deck this way, maybe I shouldn't have done that and I'll play it this way next time to improve on that. But when you just blame it entirely upon luck or bricking or top decks, things that are out of your control, or at least things that you believe to be out of your control, you never learn anything from it. And your loss is just the loss that you're salty about, and you don't gain any actual experience from it. You don't gain you don't learn anything from it. Now, the best way to fix this, even though it's difficult when you're so prideful like that and you start to develop this ego, it's going to be your pride is going to get bruised a decent amount when you're starting to get good. But seriously, the best way to fix it is just every time you lose, blame yourself. It doesn't matter if your opponent got lucky or if you believe that your opponent top decked or just out of the other thing. Just critically think about your game. Think, why did I lose this game? And try to find something that you could have done better in order to improve upon it, and what you could have done to give yourself the best chance of winning. Ultimately, that's the best way to get better. And that's basically how people will get good really quickly, is they think, oh, I lost this game because of this, I need to do this better next time. And they don't have this prideful mindset of, I'm good and I shouldn't have lost. And a good exercise to take part in when you're starting to adopt this behavior is, even when you're mid-game, always be critical of your own plays. Think after an exchange, after something's happened. Maybe you've played into a back row and you lost the exchange, you minused a little bit, or your push got stopped, or you thought you had game but your opponent had an answer. Always be critical in game, especially, of what happened, and try to make a mental note of that to remember later. And to think, okay, when I did this happened, so next time I'm going to do it differently, and maybe it'll turn out differently. But not just your own play. Another good exercise to have is to watch other people's games, especially other relatively good players' games, and be critical of their plays as well. Now, I'm not saying be critical as in criticizing them directly, saying, "Oh, you suck, you should have done this," or "Oh, you should have done this." Not necessarily even being vocal about it. Just thinking in your head, "Oh, they could have done this in order to win this way," or "Oh, they could have done this and that would have played around this." It's a really good exercise, and especially if they're playing the same deck as you, it can help you learn things along the way. And even so, watching other people's games, maybe they'll do a play that you hadn't thought of, or play around something in a different way than you had imagined, and you'll learn something from it. There's always good things to come from it. Excuse me. Now, going back to the whole mindset of when someone loses and they say, "Oh, there's nothing I could have done. I was completely out of my control." Generally, there's almost always something you could have done better. It might be something really minute and really small so that you don't notice it and your opponent doesn't notice it, but there's usually something. Maybe it's the order in which you played your cards. Maybe you just misplayed and didn't play around something that you should have. Maybe you didn't play to your outs, play to the most outs you could possibly have. Have the highest probability of drawing one of your outs to win. Maybe you didn't play fast enough in an advantageous position and you lost in time. That's perfectly possible. It goes along with the video from yesterday. Or all in all, you could have just been more prepared. I mean, I get it. The mindset, like another mindset you have to deal with, is being confident. And when I say confident, I don't mean outspokenly confident, like not saying, "Oh, I'm the best," or "I'm better than you," but more so actually believing in yourself and believing that you're a good player and believing that you deserve to be at the top tables, deserve to be playing alongside some of the best players in the world. And when you truly believe that, when you start rising up the ranks and you start getting better and you start, starting off well at regionals, starting off 3-0, 4-0, 5-0, and playing next to players who you've seen before, who you think are better than you, the nerves start to kick in. And some people get more nervous than others, but I think ultimately that's the ultimate mindset that keeps people back for a second, is they just get nervous. And when you get nervous, you start to make misplays, and you start to play a little bit sloppy, and you start dropping cards, and you start shuffling your hand and revealing stuff to your opponent, and it's just a mess. The only way to get over this nervousness is to be as prepared as you possibly can be. Know your deck inside and out, know the matchups inside and out, know your side deck inside and out, know what cards you can put in from your side deck and what cards to take out, so that you can side deck very quickly and not have to worry about miss side decking or over side decking. Having your ratios in your head already so that you can just very quickly do it without having to give it much thought. Being prepared is ultimately the only thing you can do, and practicing. Same thing goes hand in hand with being prepared. You're never gonna be able to do well at an event if you don't practice with your deck. And I mean, when I say practice, I mean practice so much that you can't get anything wrong. And there's no way for you to misplay it because you've been in a situation 1,000 times. That's basically the only way to get nervous. But even if you do this and you prepare your deck and you know your side decking and you have everything, you think you have everything together, and then you sit down and you're sitting across from a pro player, so to speak, and that, in my experience and in most players' experience, can just be the most nerve-wracking thing that you could possibly do. So the first time you play a well-known player, you're going to be a mess. Most people, unless you've really mastered your mindset and just have the internal confidence necessary to say, you know what, there's nothing special about this player, it's just another match. There's no reason that they have an advantage over me just because they're a well-known player. Unless you can truly get that worked out, the first time you play a well-known player is probably going to be a mess. You're probably going to be really sloppy. You probably might misplay. You might slow play. You might get intimidated, and you'll just lose. It's happened to me. It's happened to a lot of us. It happens to the best of us. But it's just another milestone along the way that you have to overcome. There's not much more I can say about it. And the people who can overcome this nervousness and gain a rock solid confidence, and not be intimidated by anything, and truly in their head believe that they can win any match, that's when you start getting better. And that's basically how players who you just think come out of nowhere and just start winning and topping and everything, that's really how they do it, is they have that together. Once you have a solid mindset and you have the confidence necessary to move forward, and you truly think that nothing can take you down, nothing can beat you, that's ultimately what allows you to get better. There's no shortcuts really. It all comes from hard work, dedication, preparing yourself, and maybe working on your head a little bit. So that's all I really have for mindset today. But I know it's only a shorter video, it's only 10 minutes, but I think it's truly an important video for newer players looking to get better. I think it's really important for them to watch. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and if you like this video, tell your friends about it. I'm sure they would love to see it just as much as you have. Thanks. We'll see you tomorrow.